I think sometimes we forget that we actually have to have rest. In fact, it was so funny. I was thinking about this story, and this person actually posted it on this actual feed. She was like, I resent the need to sleep. And because we have so much work to get done. And I was thinking about that story, and it was just funny that she posted it, because I think as leaders, we sometimes have this idea that 110% all the time is what is required. Like that's what's going to get us the best results, when it doesn't. It doesn't get us the best results for all kinds of reasons, but one of them is because we are limited humans, and 110% is literally not possible. Don't get me started on the math of that. But when we talk about rest, there is this underbelly of rest that I don't think we always talk about. And my friend Erika Biddix, who is an entrepreneurial strategist, she's an amazing coach. She owns a co-working space in Knoxville, Tennessee, posted about this as well. And I was like, Erika works with so many women who are running their own businesses and who are working in all these spaces where rest feels challenging. And for herself, who is like already aggressively helpful, but also someone who is like, people think I get a lot done. I ain't got nothing compared to Erika. So what rest looks like for her, also as a mom of 3 who is married to a husband who also has a job outside the home, what does rest look like, and how do we deal with that guilt? That's the conversation I wanted to have. So if you're a leader who struggles with rest, I think we are going to mostly talk about women, because I think women experience this differently, but men also deal with this in, I think, just a different way than we do as women. But the power of rest, but the guilt that comes with it, I think is something we all struggle with. So we are going to welcome Erika Biddix. Yay!
Hello. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. So glad that you're here. And I'm going to tell a funny story about you while you're on, because literally just before we were on, Erika had a baby that was a friend of hers, like in her arm. And she's like, what are we going to do? And like, we're just going to deal with it. It's totally fine. Said baby did fall asleep and then go with mother. But the guilt of like, oh, things like that happen outside of our lives. And so I thought it was just such an appropriate introduction to who you are as a totally helpful person.
Well, I also think I'm here for normalizing that. Obviously, I don't work in a corporate space any longer, but I think just that's a whole other soapbox and not what we're here for. But to have the woman who's here, he's a relative newborn. He's only a couple of months old, and she was going to lunch, and I was like, oh, I'll just keep him, because that's the best thing you can do for a mom. I think with the new one is like, let me just hold that baby. Let me hold that baby for a while. But I think just normalizing helping another person with rest. So she was going to lunch, but I think I know as someone with, who's had babies, that going to lunch is rest in some capacity. So
absolutely. Okay, so we're hearing that you might not be able to hear us on LinkedIn. Oh, but she says it's all good now. Okay, great, awesome. I always want to check those things. Yeah, and I think that's one of the things about rest. I think that we have guilt about. At least this is one of my theories, is that we know that we can't do it alone. Like I say a lot, success is a group sport. Yeah. And that includes the ability to rest. And oftentimes when we have a lot of different responsibilities, we have to ask for help. And then we have this guilt that rises up that, what am I doing for that other person? So how do we manage this kind of guilt of rest? Like when you were talking about this last week, and I'm just curious around that.
I'm a recovering workaholic. I don't think there probably is a better word for it, but I have for almost all of my 46 years on this earth woken up, done, and keep doing until I go to sleep. And it wasn't that I was earning sleep. It was, if I was awake, I should be doing. I was like that all the way through high school. I made it through college on like 4 hours of sleep a night because it was work and college and whatever. So then I brought that into my corporate life. And I've been out of corporate work since 2016. So that's a really long time, eight-ish years, right? And I would say it was probably only within about the last 2 years that I really learned how to not be on all the time. Anytime I'm wake not be on, right?
Yes.
I have started taking naps, Jen, and 2020 Erica would be like, what is this? I don't understand. But the reality is I'm getting older. I have a different kind of stress that I carry from a work perspective. I have a different kind of stress that I carry from having 3 kids that are now teenagers, right? It's different kind of stress. And this body needs more sleep. And the way our family's set up, I can't get that kind of sleep at night right now. So you know what the body needs? It needs to lay down in a bed and go night.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. We have this idea that I can overcome my body. Like I can overcome the needs of sleep, food, water, like these things that are required to actually do the jobs that we do.
Well,
and,
it's not just the sleep piece either. Like my brain needs a nap. And that nap sometimes can't look like sleep because, I have 3 kids I have to chauffeur all the places. But my brain also, I kind of can see it like steam coming out of my ears sometimes when that machine is working too hard and it just needs a reset. And learning how to sit and do a puzzle, which is really what rest is for me now, that has taken years. I'm still not even sure I'm good at it. I have to like throw my phone away from the table where the puzzle is, but it's work to figure out how to rest.
It is. And it's so, besides the guilt of that, there is like, well, this doesn't feel like rest, or this doesn't feel productive. I think is one of the things that really gets us. This doesn't feel productive. When I was doing my grad work, one of the courses that I had to take was on teaching writing. And we talked about productive procrastination, which is this
I love that phrase,
percolating phrase somewhere. And so when I feel that same kind of like steam coming out, my favorite productive procrastination is like to go outside for a little bit. And if it's wintertime, this doesn't work real well, but in the summer, deadhead some flowers, because it does feel like I've accomplished something. Like there's a little bit of like, I can see progress somewhere, or bake something, or just something that feels completely different to my brain and body. And I will notice I'll get ideas and things because I'm trying to not hunker down and like white knuckle it through. The things that I want actually start to come.
Yeah. I used to run marathons. That was back in the day. I got so much thinking done when I was running because I couldn't, I did it before you had a cell phone that you could do everything on, just an iPod. But the amount of thinking I would get done because I was completely unplugged and also just trying to stay alive while running. that was a thing,
really is the key in that part, right?
Or honestly, in the shower, I get some of my best ideas in the shower, and it's because my brain is. It's like it doesn't have anything it has to be doing, right? So I think if we also can define rest as so many other things than just laying down and sleeping, although I think that is an important piece, that helps. The guilt piece comes in with acknowledging that you need it. So you can sometimes feel guilty for ignoring your body's needs. So there's guilt on both sides, right? And you can feel guilty for doing what's considered rest to you because outwardly it may look like a dumb hobby to somebody, or it may look like a waste of time to somebody, right? And I think that's where the guilt piece comes in, is what does this look like to other people? And in reality, if you're honoring yourself and your body, that's the voice in your head you got to get rid of.
Absolutely. I think there's that idea of what other people think about it. And I'm curious if you're listening, live, what you think about this next thing I'm going to say, because I think sometimes we can pretend that we don't need it because actually we think we're bad because we do. Like, so we pretend, oh, I don't need rest, or I can overcome this, because something about our cultural messages have told us that you're bad, you're lazy if you are resting or you're not productive 100% of the time. I often say, like, our society so values productivity. We measure people in fractions for positions. Like you have a 0.75 FTE, or what is that? You can't 3/4 a human,
Yeah.
but we do because of productivity. And that is unhelpful to us when we honor us as whole people and who we are as humans.
It's shown up in my marriage. Patrick and I, he's also a overachiever. We both are. And we had to, a couple years into our marriage, kind of identify that we both felt like in order to be bringing the most to the marriage and to our kids and to the family, that we had to be on. Like it was
Yes.
almost always like a who's busier or who needs less rest. And when we named it and recognized how silly that was between two partners. So if you take that into the workspace and with your team,
Yeah.
right? Like you're there to work as a team. So what good is it if you let one person like just disintegrate into dust from exhaustion?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And exhaustion has so many different forms too.
Mhm.
It's not just feeling sleepy. Like there's so many different ways that you feel exhausted. So like Mike's saying, recreating something can be such a challenge. And he's a graphic designer and he's a great brand strategist. And, like it's really hard to be creative when you don't have space. And
Yeah.
if you haven't rested, you don't get space. One of my favorite books is actually right here. And my assistant Chief Gen Officer Shelby sent it to me, and it's called The Creative Act: A Way of Being. And I read it on the beach in a day last year. And it totally reset a few things about that idea around creativity requiring space. It was just reminders of that. And
Yeah.
admitting that we have limits is actually what helps us be creative, even though our culture tells us something totally different. It's
Yeah.
so
Well,
challenging.
And honestly, my body, and that's what the post was I made that you were reacting to, is that I've done a lot of work towards
Yes.
this, right? Towards kind of fixing what I did wrong.
Yeah.
Over the decades. And so even though I know, and my soul knows and my heart knows that I need to rest, and I'm okay with that, my body and my brain are still like, wait a minute, why aren't you? So I have fixed the like worrying about others outside of myself. I have fixed the understanding of needing to rest, but there still is what I've trained my body and my brain to do.
Yes.
And now this step is like, tell that voice, hush, like,
Yes.
hush it up. It's nap time, right?
There's such an unlearning to do, which is what you've described. And then the healing actually feels incredibly uncomfortable, which is what you're describing right now in your body. And that idea of the anxiety that starts to come because I'm not doing something, I'm not being productive. Is this allowed? And then the emotions come, of like, oh, now I feel guilty about that. And
you know what though? I'm showing my kids that you can take a nap during the day, and up to this, the oldest one turned 16 this weekend, and for most of his life, 13, 14 years of his life, he saw go, 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 and that's what I was modeling to him. So I'm hopeful now that when they see me driving home and I'm like, I'm so tired, I need a nap, and then I actually go take one. See that is okay and that is normal, and a way you can handle being tired is actually going to sleep.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you need a snack, water, asleep. Yeah, exactly. Angel's making an interesting point. So if you're new to the Enneagram is a personality framework. And so Enneagram 5s really like to be capable, and hating to admit that you need rest is cost to be so hard for a 5 who already has limited energy, and like learning to manage that is really hard. For me as an Enneagram 7, I didn't want to miss out on anything. I was like, oh, there's so many more fun things to do. Or if I miss this thing, I'm going to miss that opportunity. I'm going to miss this career chance if I miss this one little thing, which is making huge mountains out of molehills in that way. One of the best things that was modeled for me as a kid was my grandfather, who came to the United States from Italy when he was young, and he maintained the siesta culture. He really did. And so I saw my grandparents nap all the time. And I always joke that I'm built for a siesta culture. But in my Enneagram 7 mind, I wasn't missing out. All those other people were working and I was getting to take a nap. So I still even had to reframe the nap to do that. But there's so much power in knowing what you need to rest. Do I need sleep? Do I just need a break from the computer for 5 minutes? We have a mutual friend who last week was really struggling, and we joked about do you need a dance party? Because she loves a 60-second dance party. And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, you need it. Go do it. Go do it. Like I just bugged her until she's like, I feel so much better. Like just sometimes rest is actually moving your body. So rest isn't just not doing, it's listening to what do I need right now?
What do I need? Yeah. I think I started doing puzzles during the pandemic. This is not something, I mean, my grandma did them, but it's not like we did them all the time or like it was family, whatever. But my father passed away during the pandemic. And what I found was if I did a puzzle, it gave my brain something else to think about.
Yes.
So it really was a way for me to process and handle the grief that I was going through. It then turned into, this is how I turn my brain off. So I know that if I'm sitting down to do a puzzle, I know I'm going to be there way longer than I want to be. Everyone in the family knows it because I'm like, okay, now here we're going to fix this puzzle, right? But I also know that my brain turns off, that I don't think about work or I don't think about grief. And so literally the process of sitting down, because I've got a big puzzle kind of pad and it sits in a very specific place in the house, and sitting in that space. So not even doing the puzzle, but sitting in that space does it for me. Right. So that's what I'm working on retraining my body to do, is to enjoy the feeling of that. Recognize that it feels uncomfortable, but turn that into a good feeling.
Yeah. And it's the same thing. You're retraining it, and our bodies need those kind of clues.
Yeah.
I joke all the time that when I still walk into my parents' house, the first thing I do is go to the kitchen and try to open the refrigerator. It doesn't matter. Like, cause that's what I did after school for, decades. I'm 48 years old. I usually don't walk into my parents' house hungry anymore, but it's like this thing. And so if we can retrain our bodies for the space that you're in, for you, it's puzzles. For me, going into our sunroom, because I don't work in our sunroom on the yellow couch. Every once in a while I might on my phone, but that's irritating to me. So I don't usually do it. It's a place of rest. Like I know that this space, because there's sun in it, it looks at the backyard, like all those kind of things tells me this is an okay space to relax, because our bodies also need to feel safe in that space. And if you are overproductive all the time, suddenly lack of productivity doesn't totally feel safe for us. And it's a retraining. It's such a retraining.
Yeah, I want to be clear. I don't have this on lock. Like, this is in process. Hence
isn't it for all of us?
Hence the LinkedIn post I made, which was that we are in a new season. So again, my oldest just turned 16. My middle kiddo is going to high school. My youngest one is in middle school. And so this is our first summer where we don't need childcare. Like we don't have to have camp every day for our kids to be safe and taken care of. Right. And it's weird and different. And people told me it was coming when I had 3 kids and I was holding all of them and they were crying and I wasn't getting any sleep. And they were saying, this is going to be hard in a different way. Man, you like just all of a sudden, for us, it was Maycember. Maycember happened. And then when Maycember was over, we were suddenly in a brand new season, just a brand new season. And it's, how do you handle the change that comes with that season, including things like, my body says, no, I should be doing. So how do I handle it differently in this season now that we're in? I need them to go to bed, Jen. I need my children to go to sleep in the summertime. We're a weekend and I still need that real bad.
I feel that in my soul. My oldest, who is, he'll be 22 in a couple months, during the pandemic, basically turned nocturnal.
Yeah.
And hasn't totally recovered from that. And it is hard when he comes home from college, because I'm like, listen, if I could run the world, I would stay up until 1 a.m. and get up at 10, but that's not how I get to run my life, unfortunately. So it's a thing.
New season. New seasons.
New season. It was funny because my Jolted Joyosity email today was about the seasons, and knowing the season that you're in is actually how you are more productive.
Yeah.
And oh, goodness, I could talk to you about this for forever. Before we go, I think just if you could you've given so many great pieces of wisdom and knowledge from your experience. What's an encouragement that you would give from your experience of overworking? Now knowing that if I listen to my body, this is better. Like, what would be a piece of encouragement to somebody who feels the fear of, oh, if I'm not productive, XYZ is going to happen?
Yeah. Well, and let's be clear. I'm an Enneagram 2-3. Jen can help me remember which one I am. But so for me, not resting means not helping other people.
Yeah.
And that to me feels like I'm not doing my part in the world. Right. So this comes from a deep-seated place. But I think the piece of advice is it's never too late to make a change, or it's never too late to acknowledge something, or it's never too late to do X, Y, Z. Right. I mean, I put 22 years in on a career that was all encompassing, like all the things, the entirety of my marriage. And I had to make a conscious effort to jump off that, hamster wheel, and then had to make a conscious effort after that to make change, recognizing what my children have seen up to the change point. It is what it is, and just moving forward in a way that I want to do the change for myself and for them, and believing that change will be seen and recognized by them, which it is. I mean, they say it out loud. And even if I hadn't done it yet, if I didn't start it until...
So let me put my coach hat on for just... Sorry. That's not what that was supposed to happen.
If I didn't
start until today.
If I hadn't started doing it until tomorrow, like that still is... For what I'm working towards, it's better for me to do it at some point than to have done it at no point.
Well, that's for all of us. I mean, not just our children, Erika and I are both moms of multiple kids, but also the people that we work with. If you are a leader and you tell your people, oh my gosh, that was a hawk that just about flew into my window. So sorry, y'all. This is truly live. Truly live. If you are a leader that tells your people, yes, you should rest, you don't have to answer your email after hours, you need to take your PTO, and you never do any of that, they're not going to believe you. They're not going to trust that they can do that too. So you as a leader have to model what you're asking your people to do in all the ways, but particularly rest, because it is this, I think, one of the scariest things besides telling bad news to your boss. I think actually resting at work is probably one of the most scariest things that we do in that corporate space.
Yeah, I do. I want to jump on that real quick. I will say anyone that I have worked with, we do have one employee now. Up to this point, it's been all contractors. Part of the onboarding process with them is saying, I'm a night worker. I like to work at night. So you may see a Slack message or an email or whatever. I am sending that on the time that I am working. My expectation is that you are seeing it when you are working.
Yes.
So I'm not sending it because you should be looking at it now. I'm sending it so that I get it off my plate and it's on your plate for when you get to the office.
Totally.
And I have got more Slack messages than I can count with people on my team that are like, why are you on here right now? You're not supposed to be doing this right now. And I think that's one of the best things you can do is set that expectation up front, because the burnout that I suffered in corporate was a direct reaction to what you're talking about.
Exactly. So the clarity of saying that, and then you have to do it as well. You have to do it too. That's the key linchpin, because people will always believe what you do over what you say.
Amen.
And it creates distrust, and they're not going to trust you if you say one thing and do another. I mean, we know that when I say those sentences, people are like, well, yeah, but then you as a leader have to go, am I listening to myself when I need rest, and telling other people that, like, this area, I think we just ignore it a lot. And it's one of the things that actually makes us more productive and more effective as a leader. So, all right, friends. Whew. Well, Erika, I am so grateful that you could come on today, and in the midst of holding babies and shuffling kids, and
I'm off to chauffeur now.
All the things that you do to help other people as well. And I'm really grateful for you, the last guest of the season. Next week, I will be back talking about how do you lead in the season of summer and what does that look like. And that will be our season finale this year of the podcast. So make sure you join us next week at 1 p.m. Eastern. Erika, thanks again for being here.
Thank you, Jen. All right. Bye, y'all.
So let me put my coach hat on for just a sec. Don't just leave this here. Take a moment. What did you learn? What's your next tiny action step? Share this episode with someone and tell them. Connect with us to keep this conversation going. As always, I'm Jen Whitmer. Thank you for listening to Joyosity. I don't take for granted that your earballs have a lot of information coming at you. Please take a moment to rate and subscribe. It really helps more people join us in creating positive culture with complex people. So work is a joy, people are whole, and organizations flourish. Can't wait for you to join us next week.